Flush the BS. He said, anything in this building that we're doing that has nothing to do with winning needs to be assessed. Everything that we do has to have a purpose. The bull bleep that has nothing to do with winning has to get out of the building, said Aaron Rodgers. Now, I'm sure Keyshawn and Rich are going to disagree with me on this, but for me, this was laugh out loud. All-time hypocrisy. Aaron Rodgers, to me, led the NFL in creating distractions for his new team this season, and he played only 4 snaps. His weekly TV gig was a headline and controversy a week, of course, hitting a crescendo with his Jimmy Kimmel comment. Aaron Rodgers is a one-man dynamo of distraction because he always has to be the center of attention. The irony is this flush the BS comment is a distraction unto itself, as Rodgers knew before he uttered it. He's a master media manipulator who has brilliantly taken the focus off his repeated playoff failures since that Super Bowl 13 years ago. Jimmy Kimmel delivered a scathing monologue rebuke of the accusation that Rodgers made against him. And then yesterday, Rodgers said he will respond to Kimmel on today's Pat McAfee show. Tune in, he said, which will create yet another distraction that needs to be flushed. But that's just me, Keyshawn. Your response, please, to Aaron Rodgers saying it's time to flush the BS.
Well, I don't know. I really don't know what he's talking about when he says flush the BS. I don't know if it's the Zach Wilson leaks that was coming out of the locker room about whether he wanted to play or not. I don't know. But I can surely say this, though. He is right. If you want to build a championship team, everything needs to stay in-house in the building. There's no question about it. You don't need hard knocks. You don't need that. You don't need hard knocks. And you don't need Aaron Rodgers continuing to go on the Pat McAfee show because that's not inside the building.
No.
That is bringing a bunch of BS and unwanted noise to a team. It's something to talk about every single day. So
true.
Even though he's saying all this, he's got to look at himself in the mirror and realize maybe those players in that locker room don't want to watch you on Pat McAfee show every single time you're on talking about something that you have nothing to do with. You know, you're not playing on the team. You're talking about what the Jets are doing. Or now you got this rip with Jimmy Kimmel. They don't want to hear that. So that's unwarranted BS that's coming out of Jets locker room. So he's got to look at that and be able to say, okay, if I'm telling everybody else that they have to march a certain way, then I need to be able to get in line with them and march that way too. So I'm not bringing this BS to our foundation as we try to build in 2024 a championship caliber team. That's really all I got for you, Skip. I don't really have anything else.
All right, go, Richard.
Yeah, I feel him. I feel him. What he's talking about is just winning culture. I think he's talking about the leaks for the Zach Wilson stuff. Anytime you're letting stuff like that kind of divide a play, stuff like that was unnecessary noise. Hey, the guy don't want to play anymore. Like, that's unnecessary to say, and there's no positive spin to that. There's no positive way that could have been given and said, hey, this is going to help this franchise in some way. I think that's what he's saying. He's saying, let's change the culture. Let's support each other. Let's move forward with everything. Let's erase this season. It wasn't what we wanted it to be. We want to go forward. We want to have a successful year. It starts with daily habits. And at the end of the day, he's a 4-time MVP. If he wants to get on a podcast, if he wants to get on the show, he gets to do it. I'm sorry, everybody gets treated equal, but some people get treated different. You win 4 MVPs, you get a little bit more leeway in certain situations. But I think in terms of talking about the Jets and talking about things that will divide the team or things that aren't constructive for winning and moving forward, I think he has to be careful with that and heed his own words as well, because he knows there's certain ways you can talk. There's certain things that need to be said, certain things that don't need to be said in the public eye, and that could cause a rift in the locker room. So I think he has to be cognizant of that. I think he will be. But at the end of the day, he's got the resume, he's got the claim to say that. I mean, I think without him saying what he said, I don't know if they bring Nathaniel Hackett back. But he said, hey, I don't think Nathaniel's the problem. I don't think he's the issue. he's the reason a lot of these guys have jobs, because he's saying, hey, I got it. That's on me. My bad. I got hurt. Give me a chance to play, and everything will be fine. So I'm all right with it.
Okay, so the one thing I do know about football above all the other games is the championship teams are always about unity. They're unified, and you guys both know this because you were in two strong locker rooms where, Key, you're Buccaneers. I don't know if you could have stronger leadership in a locker room than you guys had, right?
No, we had strong leadership on both sides of the ball.
That was a tight football team to me that knew exactly what its identity was, and it was a one heartbeat team, even though you had some issues with your coach, but still, it was on time for John Gruden to walk in the door, and maybe he went along for a great ride, but it took it right over the top, right?
No, we had a tight group, and as far as Richard, as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, he's more than welcome to say whatever he wants to say, whenever he wants to say it, on anybody's podcast, on any writer's column, on any internet site. He can say whatever the hell he wants to say. Just know that your teammates are watching you and they're listening to you. So when you say certain things that you may not know affects them from a mental standpoint, got to be very careful. Because some people don't align themselves with Aaron Rodgers as much as people might think. Other people have different views on certain things in life. So when you bring certain things outside the locker room, as you know, very astute as you are, it could screw up your chemistry within that locker room.
Yep.
No question.
Yeah. Okay, so as many people know who've watched me on television these many years, I've never been a fan of Aaron's, especially sort of off the field in the locker room, blame deflecting, finger pointing diva. I think they got sick and tired of his act in Green Bay, and I think they are jubilant that they are winning games with somebody, and we're about to talk about Jordan Love here in the next few minutes on the show, but somebody that locker room has united around, that they believe in him, and they're playing hard for him because they want to win with and for him. And that's the opposite of what Aaron has always been. And I know he deeply offended Jimmy Kimmel, who fired back at him because he wrongly accused him. But some of the things in Jimmy's monologue response were that Aaron genuinely thinks that because God gave him the ability to throw a ball, he's smarter than everyone else. I do believe that's what Aaron thinks. And the other line from Jimmy that resonated with me was that Aaron is too arrogant to realize how ignorant he is on many issues, because he speaks like he's an expert on immunization and all the other controversies that Aaron has been through. So I appreciated Jimmy's monologue, did not appreciate what Aaron did, and yet now Aaron's trying to milk it for another big appearance, I guess it's today, on the McAfee show, where he's going to respond to Jimmy and keep that beef going. But
that's the part that I'm talking about.
That is correct.
It probably won't affect the team, but when you're asking for them to keep everything in-house and do certain things a certain way, then you have to look at yourself in the mirror and be able to say, okay, if I'm putting these rules down and I'm laying the foundation down like this, I need to adhere to it myself. So I understand going on the podcast and whatever, responding to Jimmy Kimmel. That's done and over with. Why continue to keep doing that? Now your teammates, and I'm sure there's some, because there's a big locker room, as you know, 70-something players between the practice squad and the 53-man roster, and everybody don't align with your thoughts. That's just what it is. Everybody doesn't align with it.
Yeah. So, Richard, back to you. How good do you think the Jets can be next year with Aaron at 40 years of age?
I think they can be a playoff team. They got to give them more receivers. Obviously, they saw how they spoke about how they feel about Lazard and Cobb and those guys that they brought in specifically for Aaron. I don't think they feel like those guys are the answer. They gave Lazard $10 million a year and decided to make him a healthy scratch for the last, 3-4 games of the season. So I think they got to get him some receivers. I think offensive line, they got to draft some guys, really solidify that offensive line, because nobody can play well if you're on the ground every play. And from the first game of the season, 4 snaps in, he got hit multiple times and he got sacked on a play that he tore his Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
And so that should have been a signal right there. Hey, that may be where you need to address next season. But if they get those things fixed, Joe Douglas, solidifies that offensive line, they can be a playoff team. They have a defense that's championship caliber. And I think will continue to play well and continue to grow.
Yeah. See, I thought they would have been a playoff team this year when they grabbed Aaron Rodgers because they were 7-10 a year ago. You flipped that thing, they could have been 10-7 with Aaron Rodgers, or maybe even better on the win percentage side. But here's what I'm going to say about the division. The division that he's in, the Miami Dolphins aren't going anywhere. They're only going to probably get better. And then the Buffalo Bills aren't going anywhere. Now, New England will change some stuff up in that spot. But then when you look at the conference as a whole, all you got to do is look at Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland. Cincinnati was derailed because the quarterback got hurt. Those are 4 teams in another division within your conference that's going to be lights out.
And Kansas City.
And then when you go Kansas City in that division, okay, the Raiders are probably going to be a little bit better.
They will.
Denver will probably be a little bit better slightly. The Chargers with a new head coach, they got talent. Who knows what that's going to be? So I just think as a conference, Houston, okay, Indy, Jacksonville, you start looking at the conference, it's going to be tight again next year to make it into the playoffs. So I don't know that they're a playoff team just because Aaron Rodgers is underneath the center.
So, Keyshawn.
Yeah, it could be tough. You're right. The AFC has gotten a lot better.
A lot better. Keyshawn, can Garrett Wilson be better than Keyshawn was when he played for the Jets?
Different. It's a difference. And the difference is when you talk about locker room leadership and you talk about accountability and you talk about all of those sort of things, that was something that I pride myself on. I didn't care about the numbers. My numbers was going to be my numbers. But I can guarantee you when you put on the tape, every single play I was active. I was doing something, and I was involved. And I think Garrett Wilson has that capability of being that way. People look at the numbers and he caught for 1,000. But what were those 1,000? Were they meaningful? Was the catches meaningful? Or are they just empty padded on statistics? But I think he's on his way for sure. He's on his way of becoming something special. And I didn't answer the question. If you notice, I danced around it because I don't want to.
We got the answer.
Yeah,
we know the answer to that.
You already know the answer.
Okay, obviously, he is not nearly as physical as you were as a football player, but he is outspoken. He does take stances.
Oh, I like him a lot,
He will
man.
stand up and speak out.
I was with him. I was with him his rookie year. We spent some time together here in L.A., and I like him. I mean, he went to Ohio State. So, I just feel like a guy like that the sky is the limit. I don't know how long Aaron Rodgers will play, but if he had a quarterback, he's going to wreck shop in that division for sure if he just gets a quarterback.
Yeah, he's going to be an issue. He's a really thoughtful, smart kid, good football player, explosive, works hard, reliable. If Aaron has him for his full season, I think he has, 13, 1,400 yards and 10-plus touchdowns and is one of the guys you're talking about, top 10, top 5 receivers.
Skip, when you play in New York, it's about taking a team, an organization, and a fan base and giving them, because in New York, they live and breathe and die with their teams. They're just like, no matter who it is, they could be Met fans, they go crazy, Yankee fans, Knicks fans, they just love their teams. And if Garrett Wilson could take and move them from where they are now to the next level, his career go skyrocket to a whole nother. Man, I went to one AFC championship game, and I'm still eating. Think about that, though. No, I'm serious, though. I took the Jets. I helped take the Jets. I didn't do it by myself, but I helped take the Jets from a 1-15 team to an AFC championship game.